Sir, we need to see your identification.
I'm a United States Marine. Here's my military ID.
We need additional documentation.
I'm an American citizen. What is this about?
You need to come with us for verification.
I served this country. Why am I being detained?
Let's keep it calm.
Military service in America is supposed to mean something, that when you raise your right hand and swear to defend the Constitution, when you deploy to combat zones and come home with medals and scars, that sacrifice earns you something beyond gratitude. It's supposed to earn you recognition as someone who belongs, someone who's proven their commitment to the nation in ways most citizens never will. On the afternoon of August 7, 2025, that assumption shattered when two IC agents approached Sergeant Reza Karimi, USMC Ret. Outside a VA clinic in San Diego, demanded immigration documents and refused to accept his military credentials as proof of citizenship despite his Purple Heart, his combat action ribbon, and the visible scars from an IED blast that had nearly killed him in Helmand province. The parking lot security cameras captured everything. A decorated combat veteran in a USMC t-shirt being detained by agents who looked at his Middle Eastern features and decided he must be undocumented, regardless of the uniform he'd worn or the blood he'd shed. What followed exposed a truth the military rarely acknowledges, that for some veterans, particularly those who don't look like the American archetype, service doesn't grant immunity from suspicion, and sacrifice doesn't prevent profiling. By December 2025, when the case settled for $18.6 million, it had forced a reckoning about whether America actually honors all who serve or just some. August in San Diego meant perfect weather. Clear skies, temperatures in the mid-70s, the kind of day that made the city's reputation for year-round sunshine feel earned. The VA clinic in Mission Valley served thousands of veterans, providing medical care, disability evaluations, and mental health services. The parking lot on a Thursday afternoon was moderately full, veterans coming and going for appointments, many wearing unit insignia or service organization caps, visible markers of their military connection. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Sergeant Reza Karimi had been born in Tehran, Iran in 1987, immigrated to the United States with his family in 1999 when he was 12, naturalized as a citizen at 18, and joined the Marine Corps at 19 in 2006. He'd served 8 years active duty, 3 combat deployments to Afghanistan, been promoted to sergeant, earned a Purple Heart for wounds received in action, a combat action ribbon, a Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, and an honorable discharge in 2014. He'd done everything America asks of immigrants who want to prove their commitment. He'd learned the language, studied the history, passed the citizenship test, and then volunteered to fight for his adopted country in its longest war. The IED blast in 2011 had left him with shrapnel scars on his left leg and arm, a traumatic brain injury that still caused occasional migraines, and hearing loss in his left ear. He'd spent 6 months at Walter Reed recovering, then returned to active duty for his final 3 years because Marines don't quit. After discharge, he'd used his GI Bill to get a degree in engineering, worked as a defense contractor, married, had 2 kids, bought a house. He was living the American dream that military service was supposed to facilitate. That Thursday afternoon he was at the VA for a routine disability evaluation, checking in on his TBI symptoms and hearing loss to maintain his disability rating. He was wearing jeans, boots, and a black USMC t-shirt with his unit insignia. His military ID card was in his wallet. His DD-214, the discharge papers that veterans carry like proof of membership in an exclusive club, was in his truck's glove compartment because he'd learned to always have documentation when dealing with government agencies. The VA clinic's CCTV system covered the parking lot comprehensively, cameras at every entrance, every row of parking spaces, recording 24/7 for security. The footage would capture the entire encounter from multiple angles, would document what happens when federal agents can't see past ethnicity to recognize service, and would become the primary evidence in a lawsuit that challenged whether military sacrifice actually means anything when the person who sacrificed doesn't look like the poster on the recruiting office wall. At 2:43 p.m., CCTV timestamp, 2 IC agents entered the parking lot in an unmarked vehicle. Special Agent Gary Stevenson, white, mid-40s, 10 years with IC. Special Agent Yolanda Cruz, Latina, early 30s, 5 years with the agency. They were conducting what ICE called targeted enforcement operations near government facilities, looking for individuals who matched vague descriptions in their database. They spotted Karimi walking to his truck, keys in hand, carrying paperwork from his VA appointment. He was Middle Eastern, bearded, fit in the way that former infantry Marines stay fit even years after service. To Stevenson he matched a profile. Male, military age, Middle Eastern appearance, near a federal facility. That was enough. The CCTV shows them parking, exiting their vehicle, approaching Karimi who just reached his truck. He turned when they called out, expression shifting from neutral to wary when he saw ICE badges. "Sir, we need to see your identification and immigration documentation." Karimi's hand went to his wallet, pulling out his military ID, the tan common access card that active duty and some veterans carry. "I'm a United States Marine. I served 3 tours in Afghanistan. Here's my military ID." Stevenson barely glanced at it. "Sir, we need immigration papers, not military identification." "This is my military ID. It proves I'm a U.S. citizen. Only citizens can serve in combat roles. I'm a decorated veteran." "Sir, we need to verify your immigration status. Do you have a passport or naturalization certificate?" Karimi's expression shifted from wary to disbelieving. "I'm an American citizen. I was naturalized after my service. I have a Purple Heart. What is this about?" Cruz stepped closer, her hand near her cuffs. "Sir, you need to come with us for immigration status verification." The CCTV captures Karimi's face perfectly. The moment when a combat veteran who'd fought for America realized he was being treated like an illegal immigrant because of his ethnicity and name. "I fought for this country. I bled for this country. And you're detaining me like I'm illegal?" "Sir, it's just verification. If you're legal, it'll be quick." "If I'm legal?" Karimi's voice rose. "I'm a Marine. Do you understand what that means? I deployed 3 times. I got hit by an IED and spent 6 months learning to walk again. I have scars and medals to prove it. What more do you want?" A veteran walking to his car nearby stopped, recognizing the Marine Corps insignia on Karimi's shirt, seeing federal agents confronting him. The veteran, an older white man with a Vietnam veteran cap, pulled out his phone and started recording. Stevenson ignored the witness. "Sir, you need to calm down and cooperate." "I am cooperating. I showed you my military ID. I told you I'm a citizen. What else do you need?" "We need you to come with us to verify your status." Karimi made a decision. He pulled up his left sleeve, revealing the shrapnel scars that ran from his wrist to his elbow, pale marks against darker skin, visible evidence of the blast that had nearly killed him. "See these? AD. Helmand Province, 2011. I earned these serving this country. My Purple Heart citation is in my truck. My DD-214 is in my glove compartment. Everything proving I'm exactly who I say I am is right here. Check it." The CCTV shows Stevenson shaking his head. "Sir, we need you to come with us. You can show documentation at our office." "You want me to leave my truck in the VA parking lot and go with you to prove I'm American? When I have all my documents right here?" "Yes, sir." The Vietnam veteran who'd been recording approached. "Hey, this guy's a Marine. He's wearing his unit shirt. You can see his ID. Why are you hassling him?" Stevenson turned to him sharply. "Sir, this doesn't concern you. Step back. It concerns me when federal agents are harassing a combat veteran. I saw his Purple Heart license plate. He's legit." The CCTV shows Stevenson looking at Karimi's truck for the first time. The Purple Heart license plate clearly visible, the Marine Corps sticker on the back window, the veteran parking placard hanging from the mirror. All of it ignored or unseen because Stevenson had already decided based on appearance. More veterans were noticing now. The VA clinic drew a certain crowd. People who recognized service, who'd been through deployments, who understood what the insignia on Karimi's shirt meant. 3 more veterans approached, all with phones out, all recording. "What's going on?" one asked, a black man in his 50s wearing an Army veteran cap. "ICE is trying to detain a Marine," the Vietnam vet said. "Says they need to verify his immigration status." "His what?" The Army veteran looked at Karimi, at his USMC shirt, at the scars visible on his arm. "You served?" 8 years. 3 tours. 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines. And they're questioning your citizenship? Apparently my military ID and Purple Heart aren't enough. The crowd of veterans was growing. 6, then 8, then 10. All recording, all witnessing, all recognizing something fundamentally wrong about federal agents detaining a decorated Marine in a VA parking lot because he looked Middle Eastern. A VA police officer, alerted by the commotion, arrived. Officer Thomas Washington, a Marine Corps veteran himself, took one look at Karimi's shirt, recognized the unit insignia, and his expression shifted to anger. "What's the problem here?" Stevenson showed his ICE badge. "We're conducting immigration verification." Subject refuses to cooperate. Washington looked at Karimi. You served? Sergeant Karimi, 2nd Battalion 7th Marines, 2006 to 2014. 3 combat tours. Washington turned back to Stevenson. He's a Marine veteran. He's at the VA for an appointment. Why are you detaining him? We need to verify his immigration status. Did you check his military ID? He showed a card, but what? A common access card proves identity and citizenship. What more do you need? We need to verify through our channels. Washington pulled out his radio. I'm calling the VA police chief and the base commander. If you're detaining a Marine veteran without cause, they'll want to know about it. The CCTV captures the next 15 minutes. More veterans gathering, someone calling local news, Stevenson and Cruz increasingly isolated by a crowd that recognized one of their own being wronged. A senior VA administrator arrived, demanded to know why veterans were being harassed on VA property, threatened to ban ICE from the facility. At 3:07 p.m., Stevenson made a call. The CCTV shows him on his phone, his expression shifting from defensive to alarmed. When he hung up, he approached Karimi. You're free to go. Karimi stared at him. Free to go? After what you just did? After treating a Marine veteran like a criminal in a VA parking lot. Our database confirmed your status. You're clear. Your database. I showed you my military ID. I showed you my scars. I told you I was a Purple Heart recipient. None of that mattered because you looked at me and saw someone who couldn't possibly be American. Stevenson had no response. Cruz looked uncomfortable, clearly wishing she'd spoken up earlier. I want your names and badge numbers, Karimi said. I want documentation of this entire encounter. And I want you to know that I'm filing a federal lawsuit. You just detained a decorated Marine because of his ethnicity. That's not going to end well for you. Should federal agents who detain military veterans without cause face immediate termination, or should internal reviews suffice? Comment below because what happened to Reza Karimi raised fundamental questions about whether military service actually earns recognition, or whether for some veterans, their appearance will always trigger suspicion regardless of their sacrifice. Karimi drove straight to a civil rights attorney's office. Lawrence Chin, who specialized in veterans' rights and federal overreach cases, watched the cell phone footage from the parking lot and knew immediately this was a significant case. They detained a Purple Heart recipient at a VA clinic. This is going to make headlines. The lawsuit was filed August 21, 2025, in the Southern District of California. Chen filed constitutional claims under Bivens against Stevenson and Cruz for Fourth Amendment violations, related federal tort claims under the Federal Tort Claims Act against ICE, intentional infliction of emotional distress, violation of the Service Members Civil Relief Act protections that extend to veterans, and defamation for the public implication that a decorated veteran might be undocumented. The damages sought, $18.6 million. $6.6 million in compensatory damages for the detention, the violation of Karimi's civil and veteran rights, emotional distress, and the insult to his military service. $12 million in punitive damages designed to punish conduct that not only violated civil rights but dishonored military service itself. The case was extraordinary because Karimi was the ideal plaintiff, a combat veteran with an exemplary service record, visible proof of sacrifice, and irrefutable documentation of citizenship and military service. The CCTV footage was devastating. Multiple angles of a man in a USMC shirt, with visible scars, holding a military ID, being detained by agents who never looked at his license plate, never asked about his service, never considered that someone might have earned citizenship through military service. Discovery revealed Stevenson's pattern. In his 10 years with ICE, he'd conducted 94 immigration verification stops. Of those, 23 were of individuals who identified as military veterans or active duty service members. All 23 were of minority veterans, Middle Eastern, Latino, or Asian. All 23 were verified as legal residents or citizens. 0 resulted in deportations because all had properly earned their status. Yet Stevenson kept stopping veterans who didn't look American to him. Internal ICE emails showed complaints. A Marine Corps base commander had written to ICE leadership complaining about agents harassing veterans near the base. A VFW post commander had filed a complaint about agents questioning veterans at a Memorial Day event. None had resulted in discipline. The deposition in October was damaging. Chin, Agent Stevenson, when Sergeant Karimi showed you his military ID, what did you think? Stevenson, I thought it might not be genuine. You thought a common access card might be fake? People can obtain false documents. Are you aware of how difficult it is to obtain a fake military CAC? The security features, the database verification. I'm not an expert on military IDs. But you are an expert on assuming decorated veterans are illegal immigrants? Stevenson's attorney objected, but the point stood. Agent Stevenson, did you notice Sergeant Karimi's license plate? I didn't specifically look at it. It said Purple Heart. That's a special plate issued only to recipients of that medal. Did you know that? I wasn't focused on the vehicle. You were focused on his appearance. His Middle Eastern appearance. Correct. I was following up on intelligence. What intelligence specifically named Reza Karimi? The intelligence was general. General meaning what? That Middle Eastern men near federal facilities should be questioned. No good answer. The veteran witnesses testified powerfully. The Vietnam vet, I served in country for 2 tours. I know what sacrifice looks like. This Marine earned his place here. Those agents treated him like trash. The VA police officer, I'm a Marine. When I see that insignia, I see a brother. Those agents saw a terrorist. That's what this was about. They couldn't see past his face to his service. Expert witnesses testified about military naturalization, about the service requirements for citizenship, about the honor code that should protect veterans from exactly this kind of harassment. A Marine Corps general, retired, testified as a character witness. Sergeant Karimi served with distinction. His service record is exemplary. What happened to him is an insult to every Marine who served with him and a stain on our nation's commitment to those who defend it. Colonel James Bradley, USMC Ret., who'd commanded the battalion where Karimi served, provided additional testimony that devastated ICE's defense. Sergeant Karimi was one of my best NCOs. When his squad got hit by that IED, he stayed conscious long enough to direct fire and call for medevac despite having shrapnel embedded in his leg and arm. He saved 2 Marines that day. He earned his Purple Heart through blood and courage. The fact that federal agents would question his right to be in America after that kind of sacrifice is unconscionable. It's a betrayal of the oath we all took to support and defend. The military community reaction was swift and furious. The Marine Corps Times ran a front-page story, Purple Heart recipient detained by ICE at VA clinic. Military advocacy groups issued statements condemning the detention. The Veterans of Foreign Wars National Commander called for immediate policy changes. The American Legion demanded accountability. Social media erupted with veterans sharing their own stories of being questioned or harassed because of ethnicity or non-Anglo names. A former Army Ranger of Mexican descent described being stopped at the border despite wearing his uniform and showing military ID. A Sikh veteran detailed being questioned at an airport despite his service medals. The hashtag Veterans Deserve Better trended for 3 days. Karimi's former unit members organized. His squad leader from Afghanistan, now a gunnery sergeant still on active duty, testified via video deposition. Reza Karimi is one of the finest Marines I ever served with. He never complained, never quit, always put the mission and his Marines first. When he got hit, my first thought was we'd lost him. When he survived and came back to duty, I wasn't surprised. That's who he is. Marines take care of Marines. What those ICE agents did wasn't just illegal, it violated everything we stand for. The nonprofit organization Concerned Veterans for America filed an amicus brief supporting the lawsuit. When federal agents detain veterans based on ethnicity despite visible proof of military service, they send a message that military sacrifice only counts if you look a certain way. This undermines military cohesion, deters immigrant communities from military service, and dishonors the fundamental American principle that service and sacrifice are colorblind. Karimi's testimony was emotional and powerful, delivered in a court packed with veterans who'd come to support him. I came to America as a kid. I loved this country enough to fight for it. I deployed 3 times knowing I might not come home. I got hit by an IED and went back to duty after recovery because I believed in the mission. I believed that service meant something, that sacrifice earned you a place at the table. And after all that, ICE agents look at me and see an illegal immigrant. They see my name, Reza Karimi, they see my face and they can't see the uniform I wore or the blood I shed. If military service doesn't earn me the right to be treated like an American, what does? What more do I have to give? His voice broke on the last question. Multiple veterans in the gallery wiped their eyes. The judge called a brief recess. His wife testified about the impact on their family. Our children asked why Daddy was arrested at the hospital where he gets treatment for injuries he got serving America. How do you explain that to a 7-year-old? How do you tell them that their father, who they know is a hero, was treated like a criminal because of how he looks and what his name is. We teach them to be proud of his service. Now they're learning that not everyone sees it the way we do. The psychological impact testimony came from Karimi's VA therapist, who'd been treating him for PTSD related to his combat service. After the detention, Sergeant Karimi's PTSD symptoms worsened significantly. He developed new anxieties about law enforcement encounters. He reported nightmares not about combat, but about being detained and deported despite his service. The irony is heartbreaking. He survived 3 combat tours with psychological resilience, but being treated as illegal in the country he fought for has damaged him in ways combat didn't. The settlement negotiations were intense. ICE's attorneys recognized this case could go to trial and become a disaster. A decorated Marine veteran detained at a VA clinic, with CCTV footage, witness testimony from other veterans, and expert testimony about military service and sacrifice. The optics were catastrophic. The settlement came December 9, 2025. $18.6 million as requested. $6.6 million compensatory, $12 million punitive. Agreed December 9, finalized December 18, paid December 27, 2025. All within 2025. Stevenson was terminated from ICE in October 2025, before the settlement was finalized. A rare outcome reflecting how indefensible his conduct had been. Crews received a 45-day suspension and remedial training. Their supervisor was transferred out of San Diego. The Department of Veterans Affairs implemented new policies prohibiting immigration enforcement operations on VA property without prior coordination with VA police and facility commanders. The memo, issued in November 2025, was explicit. VA medical facilities are safe spaces for veterans to receive care. Immigration enforcement actions that target veterans seeking medical treatment undermine trust in the VA system and will not be permitted without judicial warrants and coordination with VA law enforcement. The Department of Defense issued guidance in November 2025 reminding all service branches that veterans should be provided resources if they face immigration harassment, and that military IDs should be recognized as prima facie evidence of legal status by all federal agencies. The memo noted that service members who naturalized through military service have undergone more rigorous vetting than most native-born citizens, and that questioning their status undermines military readiness and recruitment. The Marine Corps issued its own guidance specifically addressing the Karimi case, reminding all Marines that every Marine is a Marine, regardless of where they were born. Nationality of origin is irrelevant to the brotherhood forged in service. Marines who have earned citizenship through service deserve recognition and respect from all government agencies. Immigration and Customs Enforcement updated training materials to include modules on recognizing military credentials and understanding that veterans are not appropriate targets for routine immigration verification. Whether this training would change agent behavior in practice remained to be seen, but the institutional acknowledgement of the problem was significant. Karimi used the settlement to establish a legal defense fund for veterans facing discrimination, to support the Wounded Warrior Project, and to fund his children's education. He continued working as a defense contractor, continued living his American life, but the incident had changed how he viewed the country he'd fought for. The CCTV footage sits in federal court records as evidence of a truth America struggles to acknowledge: that military service doesn't always earn the recognition it's supposed to, that sacrifice doesn't always prevent suspicion, and that for veterans who look like the enemy Americans fought overseas, coming home doesn't mean being welcomed. August 7, 2025, started as a routine VA appointment. Check symptoms, maintain disability rating, go home. It ended with a Marine veteran being detained in a parking lot by agents who couldn't see his Purple Heart, his scars, or his service, only his ethnicity and their assumptions. The settlement finalized December 27, 2025, 8 days before year-end. And somewhere in San Diego, Iranian American veterans still wonder if their service is enough to prove they belong. Though Karimi's $18.6 million settlement proved that when it's not, at least the courts might recognize the dishonor. If you believe military service should earn recognition regardless of ethnicity, and that agents who detain Purple Heart recipients should face termination not tolerance, subscribe for more documented cases of systems failing the very people who defended them.